At this point in my life, when bizarre stuff is happening to me or I look dumb, it's at the time I'm literally thinking this is going to be a good story. Because, like, having a lighter heart helps you to relax in the moment and not to think everything's such a big deal. And I'm not trying to be cool.
I think this conversation will be one that certainly will be helpful to you. Might make you laugh a little bit, but also cause you to reflect on where you are in terms of your own journey, your spiritual journey. And we bring back to the microphone Brant Hansen, individual who is a syndicated radio host, a best-selling author, and has worked with Cure International. Talk about that a little bit later. Also has a podcast. It's called the Brant and Sherry Oddcast. It's been downloaded more than 15 million times. He's been named the Personality of the Year multiple times with Christian music broadcasters. Also speaks to the issue of autism, since he has been diagnosed with that as well. And he's been on the program with us as we've talked about Blessed Are the Misfits, because he counts himself as one, The Truth About Us, The Men We Need. But today we're going to be talking about a book, Life is Hard, God is Good, Let's Dance, Living at Peace in a World Gone Mad. He's been on the program with us before, but against his better judgment, have decided to join us again. So, Brant, how you doing?
I'm good, Kerby. It's good to talk to you again.
You know, after I start reading your books, I start talking like you. I would probably never do that with anybody else, but I know enough about your personality, seen some of your videos, read some of your books. I just thought that was funny because, if nothing else, the last part of your bio says he plays the accordion in spite of popular demand. So, again, I think it gives people an understanding of the fact that you've got a great sense of humor. But as I read through your book, 26 different chapters, very readable, we're going to work our way through that. And I think in some respects, your opening chapter reminds me of the Misfits book, because you said there's a meme of a photo, and it's a golden retriever in a helicopter pilot's seat. He's got a headset on, his paws are on the controls, and the caption says, "I have no idea what I'm doing." And you said, "My name is Brant, and I am that dog."
That is me. I don't know what I'm doing. But that's all. It's good. Like, some people, they get really uncomfortable when they hear that. Like, they hear a grown man who's seemingly on paper, like, well, you could look at the resume and go, wow, he knows what he's doing. But I really don't. And I think that's good, because anything that's happened to me, I think God clearly gets the credit for it, because I didn't plan it. I feel kind of like Forrest Gump. I've had to travel the world to some of the most unlikely places, and I've gotten to see stuff and write about it and experience it. I didn't plan any of it. It's just worked out that way. And I think that's really beautiful. And it was highly unlikely, honestly, that it worked out like it has.
Well, and I sometimes find myself, because I'm in administration, where we have meetings where they're doing, looking at your strengths and weaknesses and threats and opportunities and all of that. And they're saying, okay, what's your 5-year plan? And I'm really big about planning, because after all, Isaiah 32:8 says, but the noble man devises noble plans, and by noble plans he stands. So we do need to make plans. But if you have done as many interviews as I have, and I know you've done many of those with individuals as well, and find out how they ended up in their position of leadership, how they ended up in this area of ministry, how they ended up in music or in art or whatever it might be, or in the business world, I'd say 9 times out of 10, most of them feel a little bit like, I'm a little bit like that golden retriever in the pilot's seat. I don't know how I got here, but that's where I am now, and God has blessed the journey along the way. Yeah,
and it's not me necessarily putting myself down, although my sense of humor tends to be self-deprecating. It's not putting myself down as much as just going, I have to trust God. Like, He makes a way. He makes it. There's so much scripture about that. Like, in the Psalms where it says, cause me to know the way wherein I should walk, for I lift up my soul unto thee. But there's so much, lean not on your own understanding, but like, let Him make the path for you. He's the way. Like, there's something really beautiful about going, okay, I'm going to be childlike about this. I'm going to trust God, and I'm going to be faithful each day with whatever He brings across my path, and then see what He makes of it. So that's been my approach. And, it's astonishing, honestly, how that has worked out. So, again, God has to get the credit, because I've kind of bumbled into this myself.
You do talk about the fact that you grew up in little towns in Illinois and Indiana. I learned a little bit more about a couple of those towns, which we'll talk about as we go along. But I think it's an illustration, again, if I were to go and talk to Brant Hansen 50 years ago, or whatever I might do, I forget your age exactly, and ask you the questions, you wouldn't see yourself in this position, nor would I. And in some respects, that's a good thing, because if you knew all the steps that you would have to take, all the missteps you'd have to take, all the difficulties you'd have to face, it probably would be somewhat overwhelming, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think it would have worked out like this. Like, for me, like the stuff I've gotten to see and do, I don't think my own plans would have been this good. Honestly, I don't know how else to put it. It's been stuff like, just to give, if there's someone's listening, just to give you an idea what I'm talking about. Like, I didn't plan to be a radio host. I wanted to be a baseball announcer, and I can't see the ball. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me until, like, as an adult.
Yeah.
I was in college. I'm like, wait, I couldn't see the ball when I was on the field. How am I going to be a play-by-play guy? But and then I was a newsman, and they would just leave me on longer and longer and on the newscast. And then, because people thought I was goofy and odd. And next thing I knew, I was like just somebody's sidekick. And then we got split up. They moved the lady who was the host of the afternoons. I was on by myself. And I was mortified. Like, I don't want to have my own show. And it wound up getting syndicated, and it took off from there. But all of this stuff is like, I didn't plan that. I didn't even want it. But what I have been doing is saying, Lord, help me partner with you today. And let my words be a blessing. Let they actually add value to somebody's life today. And whoever you bring across my path, that's all I've done. And the rest of the stuff is like, he's very clearly making a way for me. And I want people to know that so that they can apply that to their own lives. And like, just, there's something about this daily faithfulness where you ask God, like Jesus told us, like, pray for your daily bread. That's your daily resources.
That's right.
So for me, I'm an introvert, and I'm on the spectrum, like we've talked about. I don't have much social energy, but I literally ask God for social energy for the day because that's what I need. How am I going to get through this? And He is so faithful with that. But that's me asking about today, just today, not next week, not next month, not a year from now. Like, and then seeing if He doesn't bless my plans because I'm trying to commit my works to Him today. If that makes any sense.
Well, again, an introvert, one of your chapters is Nobody Moves into Assumption, Illinois, but introvert from Assumption, Illinois, which is on the autism spectrum, and look at what God has used with him. He said in this book, I want to take the format of Bob Goff's Love Does and mix it with my own strange experiences in a way that I think Ted Lasso would be proud of. So very good references there. But I did mention that one of your chapters about the time my face hit a parked truck. Once, as my face was hitting a parked truck and my face was doing this in front of a large crowd of onlookers, I had an epiphany. Actually, I said I had 3 epiphanies. Number 1, I really, truly have no business riding a motorcycle. Number 2, this is going to make an awesome story if I, am still alive to tell it. Number 3, what am I doing here is unquestionably first-rate entertainment for the large crowd of onlookers. But you use that to talk about the fact that, first of all, I could make an illustration. Our Facebook pages and our Twitter accounts and even Instagram, those are like the highlight reels. Not too many times do we talk about our failures, and yet those are as much a part of our life as anything else, aren't they?
Yeah, I think, like, at this point in my life, when bizarre stuff is happening to me or I look dumb, it's at the time I'm literally thinking this is going to be a good story. Because, like, having a lighter heart helps you to relax in the moment and not to think everything's such a big deal. And I'm not trying to be cool. That particular story was me in Indonesia. It was after the tsunami happened years ago. Yes. I was there to try to help. And someone, a guy was leaving. He's like, look, these vehicles are just abandoned. So if you need a motorcycle, I got one. I'm like, no, that's good. I don't need to. And I hadn't slept for days traveling there. He's like, no, we're outside. It's super hot. There's a big crowd around. And he's like, "Oh, just try it." I'm like, "No, I don't want to." He's like, "No, do it." I'm like, "No, man, I'm really tired." "No, come on."
Bam.
So I did it, and I gunned it, and I killed it. I kept killing the engine, and finally I did it. And I don't know what I was thinking, but it just took off like a rocket. And I pulled back, and I was doing a wheelie, squealing across this parking lot. And then I was like, "Oh no!" And I leaned forward, and then I flipped over the handlebar and flew into this truck. And I stood up and tried to make a joke out of it. I hit the thing with my face and dented the truck. And I tried to make a joke, and then I just passed out in front of everybody.
Right.
And the funny thing was, later that week, I had to go back like a week later to this hotel area where it was a staging area for missions groups. But they're all these Indonesian guys, and they saw me, and they did like a pantomime, like pumping the accelerator, and they're like, "Vroom, vroom, vroom." Ha, 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 ha. They were still laughing about it.
Still laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the last, I don't have any business on a motorcycle. That's the last time I was ever on one. But
yes.
Yeah.
And the reason you were there, let's just talk about that, because you work with Cure International Children's Hospitals. You, of course, they're healing children with correctable disabilities, and that's one of the reasons why you've been able to travel where you have. And again, I want to commend that to people, because you talk about that every once in a while in the Brant and Sherry Oddcast, don't you?
Yeah, and this is something it's like the biggest secret in Christendom or something. It shouldn't be. And you should check this out. Whether you want to give or not, it's up to you. But at least know what God is doing in the world, because CNN's not going to cover this. Fox News doesn't cover this. Like, Cure are these hospitals. It's top-notch surgical hospitals that do things that are incredible for kids that have correctable disabilities, so they can like walk for the first time in their lives. And they're all considered cursed. Do you have any kind of disability in the traditional culture? But it's 8 full-on, top-notch orthopedic and neurosurgical hospitals. They're amazing. And they're all about Jesus. All of it. Like, so the surgeons are praying over the kids while they're on the table asleep. Like, there's devotions that happen for the moms. There's pastoral care. They get people plugged into churches. And there's nothing like it in the rest of the world. So when I first went and I sat in on some surgeries in the OR, I was blown away. Like, this is the best worship service I've ever been in my life. But there's something about healing that's just so stunning. I mean, it's why Jesus' miracles, he could have done anything. But the vast majority are healing. And I'm telling people, you see it, and it's like an advanced trailer of heaven.
It's amazing.
It really is. And you can see why Jesus is saying, look, the kingdom is breaking through.
Mm-hmm.
And he was healing people to demonstrate that. Like, I'm giving you an advanced trailer of the kingdom because it's here. It's available now. And that's why this is such an important work. And if you go to cure.org and you can just see some of the backstory, some of the kids, you're not going to believe it.
We do have the Brant Hansen website up, as well as, of course, a link to your Facebook page and Twitter, now called X. And, of course, the book coming out in about 2 weeks. But I thought we'd get into one other issue, going back to maybe Chapter 5, a genius idea, outsource your worry. Because in addition to the fun stories, there are some really great biblical principles. And one of those is to go to Jesus and recognize that if you're anxious, and believe me, anxiety seems to be at an all-time high, Brant, maybe we should recognize that, as you say in the subtitle, Jesus is not unrealistic in telling us not to be anxious. But one of the themes that runs through your book, and certainly through that chapter, is this idea of outsourcing your worries. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Okay, so Tim Ferriss is this guy who's like a efficiency or manager. I don't know what you call him. He's a really well-known writer and podcaster and all that, not coming from a Christian perspective. But I actually heard him say that he's really big on outsourcing. So he'll hire like a personal assistant in India to handle his schedule and all his details. And he said, as a joke one morning, because he was really worried about something, he, as a joke, told her, his personal assistant in India, he's like, "Hey, I need you to worry about this for me today." And she's like, "Okay, and I will." And he said the weird thing was, it worked. It actually helped. It helped his mindset knowing that somebody else was worried about something for him, so he didn't have to worry about it. I'm like, this is why we're told to cast our cares repeatedly. It's in the Old Testament and New Testament both. To cast our anxieties on him because he cares for us. Like, it's the same concept, but it's way better because he can actually do something about it. why not say, look, if you've got something you're worried about, you can't control, like, this isn't my department. God, I need you to worry about this for me. Now, of course, he's not worried, but you know what I mean? Like, to carry this burden. I'm just going to throw it on you. You're going to have to deal with it. It's incredibly helpful. It's incredibly scriptural. It just struck me as really funny that this guy kind of stumbled onto this truth, even when it was just like, I just need somebody else to handle this. And that's exactly the mentality that we can have, waking up in the morning asking God to take care of stuff.
Again, when Jesus says, first of all, Apostle Paul says, be anxious for nothing, but also Jesus says that, and of course, the Sermon on the Mount, it does seem to me that that is a very important principle. Now, I recognize some people have some kind of anxiety disorder, but the bottom line is that people worry about so much. And one of the things, Brant, I've heard people even in this studio and when I've talked to them on the phone talk about most of the things that I've worried about over my life ended up not even actually happening, and I worried about it for no reason whatsoever. And once you have an eternal perspective, as I said to my wife the other day, as a matter of fact, I said this to some other people too that were talking about, you don't seem to be that worried about stuff. And I said, well, I don't worry about too much, especially you don't need to worry about the small stuff. You don't need to worry about the little things. And in light of eternity, all of it is small stuff. All of it are little things. And there is a sense in which outsourcing your worry is one of the principles I took from your book that I thought was very helpful.
Good. There's one other angle on that with regard to the big stuff. I think Jesus is showing his disciples when he goes out on the lake with them in the boats and he brings a cushion and he's asleep and they're all freaking out. He's like, don't you trust my character by now? Like, even if the ships go down,
yes,
you're going to be okay.
You're going to be okay.
So even if your worst case scenarios unfold, you're safe with him if you trust him. Even if. So there's something really wonderful about knowing that. It's just trusting his character. Like, I don't have all the answers. I can't figure everything. Things are going to happen. But he says, look, you're going to have trials and tribulations, but be of good cheer, for I've overcome the world. Like, even if the worst stuff happens, you're still safe, ultimately.
Well said. Brant, let's, if I can, maybe bring everybody to when you were at a Christian school. You're actually speaking to high schoolers and faculty in a Christian school gym. And so you start off with an obvious question. So what was the favorite topic and subject of Jesus? What did he talk about more than anything else? So a couple of kids say, well, love. Nope. Oppression. Nope. Hypocrisy. Nope. Money. Nope. Hell. Nope. Finally, you say, wait a minute. Nobody knows Jesus' favorite subject that he talked about all the time? Then you said something you probably shouldn't have said, but that's okay. What kind of Christian school is this? But I thought it was just a great way. And in hindsight, you might have said, okay, maybe that was a little bit harsh. But the answer everybody's probably wondering about is kingdom. And this idea of God's kingdom and being the kingdom of God is something we should talk about more. I'll give credit where credit is due. We do have some guests that come on the program and do talk about that, but that was, without a doubt, the most favorite subject of Jesus, and it seems to me that that's something we should talk about more often.
Yeah. I mean, he's constantly trying to describe it to us. Constantly. Like, the kingdom's like this. It's like that. He's giving us examples, and it's kind of weird because I grew up in church. We never really talked about it. And it is the good news. His kingdom is the good. Look what Jesus calls the good news. And what I talked about in the book too, like, coming to know this is so helpful in life because his kingdom is so good. Like, he's a king you can actually trust. And that makes all the difference in the world. But in his day, I mean, you may be aware of this, but like, the word gospel predates Jesus. Like, they would talk about Caesar Augustus. There's a tablet in Priene, Turkey they've uncovered, and it talks about how the king is here, the kingdom is here, the good news. They use the word evangelion, or how we say it in the Greek, but it means gospel. The gospel is this: the kingdom is here. It's a wonderful kingdom. It's all about Caesar Augustus, and that predates Jesus. So that's what you do as a king when you take over. You send out messengers and you say, hey, good news, your area's been taken over. You have a new king, but there's going to be better roads, and there's going to be better theater, and there's going to be, medicine, whatever it is. You talk about why it's better that you're in this kingdom now. And that's the environment that Jesus is coming. He's saying, my kingdom is here. Here's how my kingdom works. And it's the best news ever. And he unfolds what that kingdom looks like and how to live in that kingdom. It's really a beautiful thing. But unfortunately, we don't talk about it very much. I think it's kind of strange.
Well, and there's another aspect of that, because I'm going to go back to one of your other books, The Truth About Us, because the subtitle is The Very Good News About How Very Bad We Are. In other words, there is another aspect of that, and that is that if you miss the marriage celebration of the king, if you miss the gospel, if you don't follow the narrow way, there are also consequences, and that's another part of the kingdom, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, if you want to, the kingdom is available to you, but he allows us to reject it. And I don't want to reject that. So I talk about this in the book, where there's a tendency among a lot of Christian celebrities, or whatever term you want to use, where they'll talk about deconstructing and leaving the faith.
That was my next question. Go for it. Yeah, we just did something the other day on a book that's just come out by Sean McDowell and others on deconstruction. Boy, you and I are on lockstep, because that was my next question about deconstruction. Go ahead.
Well, I've seen this kingdom of God in action. And I talk a lot about these stories being at the hospitals where people are being healed and the kingdom is being proclaimed. Like, they're sharing the good news of Jesus with these people. And at the hospitals, thousands of people decide to become Christians, and their kids are healed. It's just phenomenal to watch that. I don't want to walk away from that.
No.
So when I read the manifestos of people saying, "Hey, I'm leaving," is the hypocrites, this and that, I'm like, why don't you ever talk about Jesus? In those manifestos, why you're leaving the faith, they don't mention Jesus.
Of course not.
And this is no, but that's so interesting to me. Like, why were you in this? I'm not in this for the Christian T-shirts. I'm not in this for the Christian movies. Like, I'm in this for him and his kingdom. So if you're leaving and you don't mention him, I wonder, like, what was the point? Why would you even want to be a part of this? Like, this is crazy without him. He's the point. And his kingdom is so good. People are yearning for it. They don't even know it. But I have a theory. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I have a theory that people get goosebumps when they see the kingdom in action, even if they don't know that's what it is. And what I mean by this is, like, when I see kids get healed, for instance, and they can run and jump and play for the first time, that's an advanced trailer of heaven, the kingdom in its fullness. When I watch reunion videos, you ever watch it, like, with a soldier will show up and surprise his daughter or something in the classroom?
Or one of the examples you use is when they give a hearing for the first time to a child, or they put glasses on a child that can't see. But one of the examples you use, if you've ever seen those, I'm sorry, I'm crying. The moment somebody for the first time is able to hear real words, or a little child is able to see for the first time, and, I'm just blubbering all over the place. And then to see that and then go, well, there's really no miracles in this world. And going, really?
No,
how do you say that?
Think about that reaction that we have at a deep level when we see. It's adults too. They can see for the first time. They can hear for the first time.
Yes.
And we're mesmerized. People who aren't believers are getting goosebumps. They're crying. People will watch the opening ceremonies of the Olympics and see all these nations in peace together, laughing or singing or sitting next to each other. And there's this grand processional, and they get goosebumps. Like, why do we react to reunions and healing and processionals and all the nations together and people hearing for the first time and people walking for the first time and people having their eyes? Why do we react to that with such a deep emotional resonance? It's because that's what we're made for. That's our home. That's the kingdom of God in its fullness, and he wants it on earth as it is in heaven. Like, people want this. They don't realize how good it is, but they want it so bad. So that's why I feel sad when people are deconstructing, walking away. I'm like, you have freedom to do that, but I'm not leaving. This is too good. I am not giving this up. No way. And even if there are hypocrites in the church, or they're hypocrites in my background or whatever, like, I'm not giving them the power to chase me away from the best relationship I can ever have.
Well said.
Why would I give them the power to do that? I'm not going to let them do it.
Don't let them deconstruct your faith. Oh, so many good points. But let me get another one, because you have a chapter on The Gentle Art of Freaking People Out. And you quote from Dallas Willard, an individual that we've quoted here before. But interestingly enough, he was saying, picked a word that really causes you to think about Jesus. And the word he uses was relaxed. Now, one of the things, Brant, I've said before is, and I've used this when we've talked about anxiety and rushing and everything else, there's no record in the Gospels of Jesus ever running anywhere. He's never running. He's never really stressed out. I mean, he's in some confrontations with the Pharisees, but if anything, he's kind of slow when it comes to Lazarus. And so there's never a sense in which Jesus is in a rush. And of course, we're in a rush. And that word relaxed, I thought, was just an interesting illustration from Dallas Willard, of all people.
Yeah, that really blew me away when he said that, when I read that he had said that, like describe Jesus in a word, relaxed. And he made a great point, which was, we talk about having faith in Jesus, which is obviously valid, but how about having the faith of Jesus, where he trusts his Father so much? He trusts the character of his Father. He doesn't have to be anxious. Like he is relaxed. He's asleep on that boat in the middle of the storm. Mm-hmm. And his friends were freaking out. But that was his idea. In that story, that was his idea to go out on the lake. He was testing them. They failed. But his whole point with them was, look, even if the ships go down, don't you know you're safe? And so that's one way that Willard described trusting God. He's like, do you realize that for a person who trusts God, you are perfectly safe in this world? And of course we think, well, that's not true. Bad things can happen. No. Ultimately, you're safe. You are playing from a very strong hand. You don't need to be anxious. And he's telling us that, like, be like the lilies of the field or the birds of the air. A remarkable thing about the birds of the air or any other animals, and I love quoting Robert Sapolsky because he calls himself a militant atheist. He's a primate neuroendocrinologist. But he talks about animals and how they don't get ulcers because we're the only creatures on the planet to get ulcers because we are the only ones who can borrow trouble from next week. Animals don't do that.
They're not thinking about tomorrow. Yeah.
No, they have a fight or flight response, but that's about the lion that's chasing them right now. They're not thinking about the lion that's chasing them next year.
No. One of the questions people might have, Brant, is, well, what does relaxed mean? And you use that in one of your chapters where you talk about this idea of earth crammed with heaven. You talk about the University of Oklahoma women's softball team, and if people aren't familiar, they had just won their 53rd game in a row, their third consecutive national championship, kind of a juggernaut. And then you talk about the interviews that they did, and they were working hard. But I love your line. Relaxed does not mean you don't put forth effort. Peaceful doesn't mean bland. Being focused on a truly long term can help you excel because it removes the intense pressure of the immediate. So if they lose, so far so good because they know who they are. And it does seem to me that whether you're talking about a softball team or a football team or whether we're just talking about running a marathon or basically running the Christian life, it does seem to me that we need to understand that that idea of relaxed or peaceful doesn't mean we don't work hard, but we have a perspective, an eternal perspective in terms of the kingdom.
Yeah, and it was really remarkable. I don't know if people have seen this on YouTube. They could probably look it up. But the press conference, ESPN had asked these softball players a question about, where do you get after winning all of this stuff, how do you keep the joy going? And that word joy just triggered these three young ladies. And they launched into the most brilliant, theologically astute observation about joy. All three of them, they tag teamed it, where they said, we don't get our joy from softball. Like, we have joy, but it's based on our trust in God and his goodness. So if we lose, that's not the end of the world, but we're able to play with a sense of well-being and confidence because we know the whole world doesn't rise or fall based on whether we win or not. And as they talked about it, was so genius because joy really, and here's a good operational definition of it. Joy is a pervasive sense of well-being regardless of circumstances. A pervasive sense of well-being regardless of circumstances. That's why Paul is writing Philippians and he's joyful. He's in a jail cell. It doesn't. The circumstances don't matter. You still have this sense of well-being. It doesn't mean you're happy in the moment. You could be grieving, but even grieving, and people who are believers know this, you can be grieving and still have a sense of well-being. And that's something that's very difficult for people to understand who don't know how to trust God. But that's what we're talking about. Like, having that allows you to work, it allows you to do things, allows you to take a big swing at life and do stuff because you have got this sense of well-being that your own failure or success doesn't determine your worth. That's a huge asset. The problem is our whole culture is based on your worth mattering or being connected to what you look like or how accomplished you are or your job security, your marriage, but that's not your worth. And when we finally trust that, I think you've got this sense of well-being no matter what happens. Does that make sense?
Certainly does. Just about out of time, but I wanted to at least take on one other chapter, and that is the monster to miracle, because, again, we have reasons to trust in God's character. Now, we've already sort of alluded to that when we talked about Jesus asleep in the boat, or you've got a great little diagram there, a cartoon of, I didn't know my lunch was going to go viral, fish loaves and fish as well, or the blind man, or whatever it might be. But in some respects, this brings together two different aspects of your life, faith in God and the work you do with Cure International. And it does seem to me that trusting in God and having faith in Him, and also wanting to advance the kingdom through the various kinds of good works that we may do, whether it's through this particular ministry that you're involved with or many other ministries we can think about. That seems to me to be just a good way to talk about really what you're talking about, and that is the need for us to trust in God's goodness and have faith in Him, even during the difficult and down times.
Yeah, He is really good. And the thing is, whatever you pay attention to determines who you're becoming. Whatever I'm paying attention to today determines who I'm going to be tomorrow. That is a fact. And God is very concerned about who we're becoming. So for me, I'm telling all these stories from the hospitals about this amazing stuff that God is doing. So I'm like, look what He's doing. They're not going to report on this. It's not on the news, but He's still doing this thousands of times over through His people. And it is a miracle. People pay for these surgeries, and these kids get to live, in this case, like kids that get neurosurgeries by the thousands at Cure in Uganda, for instance. But my whole point with that is, like, pay attention to this. Because if you're going to pay attention to just news all the time, you're going to be anxious and angry. We don't need more anxious and angry people. Our entire culture is anxious and angry. If, however, I'm paying attention to the kingdom, if I'm actually talking to God each day about what we're doing today, and I'm not drinking from that well of constant fear and anxiety and anger, like, I've got a chance to be somebody who's at peace, which is actually Jesus' gift to us. He's like, I give you my peace. And a lot of us, I think, we're like, well, thanks, that's a nice gift, but I'd rather have 24/7 news. Like, no, don't take this gift back. It's too good. And we especially need older people who are at peace. We get frustrated with how anxious younger people are, but look, it used to be you would talk to somebody who's a generation or two older and they would have perspective and peace, but now a lot of times they're the ones that are constantly taking news in 24/7, and they're worked up about it instead of offering wisdom and patience and a listening ear. It's like they're the ones that are really upset too. Like, this can't be. So if you're somebody who's a believer who's going to trust God, like spending time with Him, paying attention to Him, this will shape everything. It determines who you're going to be.
Spend time in God's Word. Certainly, I think you will benefit from this book, Life is Hard, God is Good, Let's Dance. But also, there is the Brant and Sherry Oddcast. We have that link there as well. You can go to branthansen.com. And that is an opportunity for you and your wife to spend some time interacting on all sorts of various issues. And there is on your website a whole list of those that people can dip into and listen to or even subscribe to. So again, those are all resources that we want to make available to individuals. And don't forget that we have in the past not only talked about this book, but also the Blessed Are the Misfits, the truth about us, the men we need, and even the earlier one, unoffendable. We've had you on for a couple of different times, and against your better judgment, you decided to come on again today, and I think it worked out very well.
It sure did. It's always good to talk to you. Such a good interviewer.
Brant, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for being with us today here on Point of View, and we will spend some time in the future talking about that again. But let me just simply mention the fact that there are some resources available to you. First of all, if you'd like to know more about the book, we have a link to branthansen.com. Of course, he mentioned cure.org, so all of that is available as well. You can find out more about the book. You can also find out more about what he calls the Oddcast, and some great material in that regard. But we've talked about everything from outsourcing your worries to really addressing this whole issue of deconstruction and the need for us to focus on the kingdom. I think it is going to be something that would be a real encouragement to you. It is a book that every once in a while will cause you to laugh out loud. And so it is published by Thomas Nelson, and you can be looking for it in your local bookstore, but we have information about it on our website at pointofview.net. That's all we have for today. We look forward to seeing you next time right here on Point of View Highlights.